And welcome to Capital Talk, a program we hope will have an impact on the future of Kenya. And now more than ever, I'm Jeff Koinange. Now all this week, if you've been watching Capital Talk, you know we're talking about books and authors, not just writers, authors. And we've had some phenomenal authors, people who want to take part in being a future of this country. Most of them looking towards the past, and it's only fair if we look to the past, we can only move forward. My guest today has put together a compilation of writings that he's done in the last almost 20 years, since the early 90s. Everything from what he's done in Business Daily to speeches he's given, Rotary clubs he's joined, he's talked to, young people he's motivated, all kinds of speeches and columns he's put together. And he's put together a simple title, Kenyans, Yes We Can. He's known as one of Kenya's leading managerial consultants. He's a busy man. At 64, almost 65 years old, he's so busy, not only writing, but also being part of change in this country. He joined Rotary, that's right, that's where he first began, more than 30 years ago. And after that, he was with ICL, Kenya Institute of Management. He was chairman of the Rotary for a while, big on ICT. He's big on that. He says it's the only way forward, and he gives an example, and he helped Rwanda, which we'll talk about. And he's also the boss, or he leads this managerial firm called Depot, the Dan Eldon Place of Tomorrow, which is a consultancy firm for leadership. It brings together not only corporate Kenya, but individuals, teenagers, young folks who want to learn about leadership. It's named after his son, who died in a tragic incident in Somalia in the early 90s. We'll talk about that too. Enough of the intro. You know him as Mike Eldon. He's now author Mike Eldon.
Thanks, Jeff.
You're an author.
I'm the author.
The author. My congratulations. This is
Thanks.
such, people write articles all the time, and very few put together their articles. It's just like this program right here. We've done maybe, 300-400 shows, and we've never thought of putting together a compilation of Capital Talks. This is what you've done, your best speeches, your talks to young folks, you talk to Rotary, and you put it together in a format that is pertinent in Kenya today. What motivated you?
It's there. The subject matter was there. So I felt that for the marginal effort of assembly, it'd be a shame not to. And maybe you've been listening to some of these year-end reviews. BBC The Interview.
Yeah.
They've been doing the best of
Correct.
2009. So there's no reason why you can't do some of that.
Yes.
So for me, I had all these articles, and they were just lying there. And I thought it would be nice to bring them together. Ideally, I would have wanted to write a book from scratch, but that's a bit overwhelming. It requires a different mindset and a different time availability, which right now I don't have.
No.
So half a loaf is better than no loaf, and here's the half loaf.
No, this is more than half a loaf, because, Mike, first of all, there's this line in the book. I have to read it before we get too far in this discussion. I probably won't forget, but you say, if we keep doing the things that we've done, we'll keep getting the results that we've gotten. Precious little at great expense. Great line, because that's what's happened in Kenya since independence. We're content with mediocrity, and we need to come out of that.
Don't generalize too much. because
Yes.
because we've got the whole spectrum here. We've got that end of the spectrum, which is significant, but equally significant, and the reason I called the book what I did is because of the other end of the spectrum, where there are so many energetic Kenyans who aren't simply doing what's always been done, and who aren't simply getting what's always been got, and get great value for money. And they're all over the private sector. I mean, Kenyans are known for being entrepreneurial. A lot of the most entrepreneurial, of course, aren't here.
Yeah, they're gone.
They're doing it somewhere else and very successfully there, which in itself is a measure of what's possible here. It'd be nice if we could attract more of them back. But I guess they're put off by the fact that there's perhaps too big a perception that what you say is general.
Yeah.
Because they do too much chatting with each other about how miserable things are back home, and perhaps justifying not coming back.
Yeah.
They read too much online Nation and Standard and stuff to further reinforce all of that negativity. But the reality on the ground, as I've seen it in all my time here since 1977, is that there are a lot of wonderful people, and the people I love to hang out with, and they're not scarce, who believe that one can have a go at making this the best possible place it can be, at having Kenya fulfill its potential.
Yeah. The Rotary, was that a big part of your life, Mike? Did that help you as well? Was that a springboard?
It was a life changer. And a springboard is a good term. The whole concept of volunteerism, of getting involved in worthy causes with like-minded people, is fantastic. People come up to me from time to time saying they'd like to contribute to this or that, to the poor, the elderly, the sick, whatever, or the young for that matter. They don't know how to do it. But if you gather together in an organization, never mind one with international linkages and local regional linkages such as Rotary has, the power is multiplied manyfold. And you learn so much through Rotary. You learn about leadership, public speaking, fundraising, project management, board meetings, minute taking. I mean, it's a whole MBA for free.
Right. Yeah.
And that's why I so often advise young people to get involved in this kind of thing, because it's a risk-free, cost-free education. It was for me.
Yeah.
Secondly, when I joined Rotary, I'd been here about a year. It was meant to be halfway through the term of a 2-year wonder. And it integrated me into Kenya. The people who are members of our club from all the different communities, and the projects that we did going out for the blind, for the mentally challenged, for the young people, which is where I got engaged at the university with careers guidance. I started understanding Kenya at a dramatically accelerated pace compared to what most expatriates are able to absorb. Never mind people who, almost by definition, tend to be quite enclosed into their enclaves.
Yeah.
Diplomats fall into this category a lot, no fault of their own.
Sure.
And I was right at the other end of the spectrum. It was such a privilege.
Yeah.
And I go so far as to say that had it not been for Rotary, I don't know if I'd have still been here. Because I don't know if I would have developed that deeper relationship with the people of this country.
Yeah.
And so associated myself with this country
Yeah.
and what people are trying to do here and the goodness of this country.
And like Bethwa Kiplagat says in the write-up in the back, he says, you're so passionate about Kenya, Mike. It's incredible.
Yeah.
You can feel the passion in your writing and your voluntary work.
Yeah.
Do you urge young people to do what you do? Because not only is it just the Rotary, but you've set up your own organization, your own foundations, and you all contribute to that on a daily basis. Do you urge young people to do that
Very
all the
much
time?
so. Oh, yeah.
How important is that? Because, people are busy. Lifestyles have changed. You have very little time to do other things. When would one get the time to volunteer?
It's a question of time management, of discipline, of having a longer term view of your life and how you wish to grow as a person and how you wish to build a legacy. I think the people who do what I do, they go into it for all sorts of reasons. And some do it for networking, some do it for social climbing, but mainly people do it because it seems a natural human thing to want to help others. And more so, if you've done reasonably well, if you feel you have something to offer, you want to give back to society. Never mind in a society like this, where the needs are all over, they're staring you in the face, and people want to do more and better than simply handing out a Harambee contribution, paying school fees for one kid, buying the coffin for a funeral. And it is this constructive, personal social responsibility that organizations like Rotary enable, so that you feel you're part of an excitement, and it's the deep satisfaction that where here before people were not getting water, now they are. The women aren't walking half their lives fetching and carrying. We've given this wheelchair, and so not only is the person mobile, but they become more self-reliant, so the whole family is liberated to do other things. And you see that up close. It's deeply moving. Yeah. It's a fantastic feeling.
I feel it already. I feel it already. Now, look, the title is not done. And you have to be invited to Rotary, don't you?
Oh, yes, we won't take anyone, just anyone.
That rules me out.
We'll see. I'll put it to the committee.
Yeah. Look, the title, Mike, is not just a line from Obama's campaign speech, of 2008. It's Kenyans, yes we can. Yes we can what? Be better people, have a better country. Because I know you don't hold back when you say we lack vision for the most part and leadership. But you're not saying we have bad leaders, we just lack leadership. It's a fine line.
Kenyans, yes we can. Of course, overtly it is taken from Obama's line because as I looked at the articles I'd been writing, I was in search of a theme. And I was consulting with my wife Evelyn, and it is she who pulled this message out. And I thank her very much for having spotted this clear, simple line. And people are very familiar with it, and some have joked about it, and I don't mind about that at all. But it is because of my profound belief that yes, we can. Now, we can what? You mentioned this word vision. We have Vision 2030 now. We got going late on our journey to defining a long-term national vision that made the best of our strengths and opportunities and defined how we could fulfill our potential. And the question is, can we become a middle-income country by 2030? Can we become a middle-income country? That basically is the short answer to your question. And my answer, of course, is that yes, we can. But I didn't call this book Kenyans, Yes, We Will. Because we don't know yet whether the potential will be fulfilled. In all my 30-plus years here, we have been under-fulfilling our potential. The potential is so great, but because of all sorts of rigidities, we've underperformed. And we have preferred to use considerable energy, but too much of time in neutralizing the energy of someone else or of another group. Yeah. There are some.
And welcome back to Capital Talk. All this week we're talking to authors. Today, he's the author. Mike Eldon has put together a collection of his writings, everything from business day to speeches he's given to motivational talks. He's on the bench talking about it, put together a book called Kenyans, Yes We Can. Mostly about Vision 2030. We can attain it. He says maybe we doesn't know whether we will attain it, but yes, we can. Right, Mike? That's the bottom line. Okay. What is there any one particular column you've written, a speech you've given in here that stands out? Stands out.
It's one of the earliest ones, and it's about how we breed young Kenyans for timidity. And I worry a lot about our education system in most of our schools. We have some wonderful schools here too who understand everything about how to develop the whole person academically, values, other interests, and preparing them for the 21st century. But if you take the average school, never mind the sub-average one of which there are only too many,
yes,
it's problematical. And the challenges are massive. The teachers are underpaid, overstretched, demoralized, disconnected from parents, and just coping with all of that. Still, to too large an extent, driven also by the need to get good results in the exams, the national exams. What can they do but just try and keep hold of the minimum. And the minimum is what? It is speaking and spreading information which then is learnt, absorbed and fed back at the exam time. But meanwhile, what happens, not intentionally perhaps, but sometimes as part of this coping mechanism, is the active suppression of all that it is needed to develop. Curiosity, initiative, decision making, judgment, risk, all of those life skills that people need in this century. At the time when people were going into, say, a factory, and all they had to do was this all day, or in a field, or to be a clerk in an office, and just follow this instruction and then that instruction. One could handle that type of super obedient, super conforming good boy and girl. In fact, it probably depended on it, this command and control type of organization with steep pyramids, a lot of people down here, a few leaders. And you're running a railway or a farm, it's almost got to be that way. Yeah. But we're not there anymore. And we could be so much further ahead even than where we are if our education system developed more robust people. And so the consequence is that too many come into the workforce like that. Or of course they drop out and they're angry and they start drinking and all that other syndrome that we know of the angry unemployed youth who've lost hope. So as they emerge, other people have to get hold of this and start stripping away the inhibitions, to start having to persuade people that after all maybe they can be creative. They have some spark of originality within them. They can go out and be bold and confident. And a lot of the work we do at the depot, whether it is people who are still at school age or at university or young professionals or senior board members of large corporations, is to help overcome that inner insecurity, that timidity that was bred into them at too young an age, by parents as well. Stern parents, untrusting parents, don't go here, don't do that. By teachers, yeah. And by early bosses. And so you realize that, hey, yes, to survive you have to lie low like an antelope, like the man said. Yeah. But it's not true anymore. It's not true. Yeah. And so much of the consulting that we do, the big challenge of the leadership is how to bring people out of that, to help flatten the organizational pyramid, to help people take ownership and responsibility, to increase their appetite for making decisions and getting on with it. And it's going to take a while yet. And the journey is slow, too slow, because people have become too persuaded over all these years, from colonial times of course, that you'd better not step out of line. And there are negative reinforcing influences coming at them even today. The whole business of governance and compliance mitigates against risk and hence against excellence and innovation. Board members are increasingly terrified, certainly internationally, of removing risk. What happened last year with the financial crisis has exacerbated that. It's everywhere. You've got to take risks, but not wild risks. You've got to be doing this balance between being bold enough but not reckless. But yeah. Too many people here are very much on the safe side, the timid side.
You're speaking about the depot, Dan Eldon Place of Tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Tell us more about it. What is it? What inspired it? I know it had something to do with Dan, your son, who was killed horribly in the streets of Somalia, 1992, 93?
93.
93, 17 years ago almost, right?
Yes, he would have turned 40 this year. He was 22 when he was killed, along with Horst Meiner, yeah. Anthony Macharia, and Hansi Kraus, a young German man working with AP. And when Dan died, we were looking to have some kind of a living memorial to him. And my sense was that it would be in an area to do with developing young people. I was very involved with it. through Rotary very much, and also through ISEC, AIESEC, which I write about here from time to time, the International Association of Students Interested in Economics and Management. And Dan too had been very involved with helping young people. Much of that we learnt after he died, included street children and all sorts of other characters. And through a friend in Starehe, I came across a project for this outdoor experiential learning by doing. And we got hold of that, and then the question was what to call this Centre for Outdoor Experiential Learning. And there was a friend of our family who actually ran the service that was the celebration of Dan's life after he died, Father Tom, who remembered a story I had told about how Dan's room in my house was always a mess. And I'd get him to try and clear it up from time to time as he was disappearing off one of his adventures in Mogadishu. And eventually one day he told me, "Dad, don't worry, just think of it as my depot. It's where I keep my Land Rover parts and my photography stuff and my drawing stuff and my Africana and all the rest of it. I just happen to have a bed in there, but it's my depot." So Father Tom noticed that the first two letters of depot were DE. So it was the Dan Eldon. So Dan Eldon what? And I came up with place of what? Yeah. And then I went to the dictionary, went through all the T's, and I came up with a few words, and the one I liked best was tomorrow. Now that's how it became the Dan Eldon Place of Tomorrow. Yes. And we started with these ropes and blindfolds and other outdoor activities to work with Starehe, with Aga Khan Academy, and with other schools, and eventually with students, the ISECers, Rotaractors, it's the Young Persons Rotary. And then one day, someone I'd been working with when I was chairman of Kenya Institute of Management, and he was chairman of the accountants body, ISPAC, was suddenly made permanent secretary in the Ministry of Finance, Martin Odoro Tieno. And I went the dream team. And I went to see him and asked him whether he thought he might need some support on the culture change I imagine he was proposing to introduce in the ministry. And he told me that they had just set up a change team, and would I go along and chat with them, which I did. And so it became a major corporate, at the ministerial level, assignment on culture change. And that changed the depot forever.
Yeah, clearly.
Because we saw that the way we had been working with the young people, same types of activities, the same type of facilitated discussion, same type of productive conversation where we got people talking to each other about things they needed to talk about communication, about renegotiating how they dealt between departments, between levels, between individuals. That's when we really launched the depot with the Ministry of Finance 10 years ago. And so ever since, we have strengthened and developed around that basic theme of aligning energy. And it's the theme of the book as well, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Aligning energy in support of common objectives.
Nearly 17 years, you said, 1993, right? If Dan was alive today, if he was going to be 40 this year, what would he think of this? Even if it wasn't in his name, what would he think of it?
I think he'd love it. And, you know, on the anniversary of his death each year in July, I go to the depot base, which is in Roalan Camp, although many of our activities are all over the place in different hotels and lodges, including here. I go there and I walk around and I commune with Dan. And he and I had a wonderful relationship when he was alive, and we continue that relationship now. And I think he'd be loving this, because he was doing this. And that's why, you know, the motto we came up with for the depot right from day one was inspiring you to fulfill your potential. And who was inspiring us? It was Dan. There's no vagueness about it. It was Dan and the sort of guy he was, and all that I learned from him about lightening myself. Lighten up, Dan. Mike, Dad, he would tell me. And so he'd love it. And the other person, by the way, would love it, is someone who died sometime before and would have turned 100 in last November is my father, who had an over 30-year career with Shell, and after he retired from Shell, he started doing exactly what I'm now doing in Europe.
Look at that.
And so I hope he and Dan are having great chats
Yeah, they're both discussing
about how their boy is doing.
Be careful what you wish for. Mike Eldon, great to have you on the bench. Congratulations.
Thank you, Jeff.
This is great stuff. Well done. Yes, we can. Kenyans, yes, we can, Mike Eldon says. It's a great book. It's a great read. Like Mike says, it's a collection of articles and writings, columns and speeches. You don't have to read it all at once. Pick it up every now and then. Get inspired. Get involved. That's what Mike said. That's what it's all about. Each of you doing your little bit, working towards the future of this wonderful nation of ours. Vision 2030 is attainable. Can be done. Mike says, yes, it can be done. What a guest. What a show. What a week. It's only the first week of January, and I tell you, it's going to be a great year ahead, especially if you read books like this. Kenyans, yes, we can. You can only find these kinds of guests right here on the bench, on the award-winning station, K24. Where, as always, even in 2010, we are all Kenyan.
All the time.
Capital Talk is recorded at the Fairview Hotel, the country hotel in town.